I want you to close your eyes and imagine it's the summer of 1998. School is over, and it's the weekend. You've been told by your parents that you got a brand new video game waiting for you that features a very popular sword-wielding hero that has the power to stop the forces of evil with a single swing of his powerful blade. A blade that has the ability and power to banish evil. A blade that can squelch darkness within its wake. A hero trapped within the conflicts of time. A hero that shows countless courage with every step that he takes. That hero, the one and only, the one everybody knows, is the legendary...
Oh, he's here! Our gracious hero, brave fencer Musashi!
He's rather small. This will not do.
Today's episode of Why This Matters, we're going to look at one of the best action-adventure RPGs on the PlayStation created by Square Enix that nobody ever talks about. A game, in my opinion, is better than Ocarina of Time. Yes, I expect the flames in the chats below. I'm well aware of that. Hit me fam, let's go. Brave Fencer Musashi, and a story of that great legend, and why that game is better in almost every way than The Legend of Zelda for the Nintendo 64. So save your game, don't remove your PlayStation memory card as we dive into this 20-year iconic 3D adventure. Spoiler warning for a 20-year game, deal with it, you've been warned. Back when Square Enix was pumping out classics such as Parasite Eve, Mario RPG, Xenogears Chrono Trigger, and the Final Fantasy franchise, Brave Fencer Musashi was an ambitious title that pushed the idea of narrative storytelling of a classic Japanese legend, the legend of Fencer Musashi himself. The legend of Fencer Musashi refers to a well-known legend centered around the legendary Japanese swordman Miyamoto Musashi from the 1500th century. Musashi is considered one of the greatest and most famous samurai and swordsmen in Japanese history. His legend and contribution to martial arts, particularly the art of swordsmanship, have made him an iconic figure. Musashi is renowned for his undefeated record in his 61 duels, and his skill with swords was unparalleled at the time. He was very uniquely known for his interesting, unique two-sword style techniques. This is reflected in the game Brave Fencer Musashi, as your very first task is to acquire the Lumina Sword, the sword that banishes evil. Throughout the game Brave Fencer Musashi, you are set on through a quest to acquire the 5 crest scrolls that grant you magic powers, such as the ability to create earthquakes, summon fire, and even levitate. And with a mix of these powers and your unwillingness to quit, you'll eventually save the day by defeating the Dark Wizard and returning the land to the way it was. Thanks, Musashi. Now that the plot's out of the way and a little bit of history lesson for you, let's dive into why this is the better game, outside of the Steamwood moments which everyone hates.
Yes!
That was honestly just terrible gameplay. Ocarina of Time and Brave Fencer Musashi came out in the same year, and however, Ocarina of Time already had a pretty conditioned following. People knew about Link's adventures to beat the Dark Ward or Lizard or whoever the main bad guy was in the franchise, but Brave Fencer Musashi didn't have that type of following. Brave Fencer Musashi name alone was loosely based on the Japanese legend from the 16th century. So when you got to your local KB Toys or GameStop or Toys R Us and you saw both games sitting on the shelf, here in the American audiences, which one do you think you gravitated towards first? Sorry, Link, you win here. But for those who did not pick that game, you were in for a treat. First off, Brave Fencer Musashi had fully voiced cutscenes, and at the time this was rare for most games.
Want? Let me go home. I'm busy, you know? Can someone get me a palanquin?
You've been summoned to save our world, so you can't go back to your world until you save ours. Isn't it just a shame?
And Square Enix was pushing the capability of the PlayStation with this mechanical choice. The in-graphic cutscenes allowed the narrative of the story to be told more fluidly than your normal grunts and hi-yas from Ocarina of Time. here's a sample clip that reflects the personalities of these characters and how they interact with the plot.
Princess? Hey, who are you?
I'm Root Trick, and you're
Musashi!
Musashi? You're the summon hero? You're pulling my leg. Now, y'all give me Lumina, won't ya? If you do, y'all get this little lady in exchange.
This narrative storytelling allowed the immersion for players more than any amount of reading that Ocarina of Time could offer. Put an asterisk here, because there is a scene in Ocarina of Time which is absolutely wonderful, where you see Ganon running out of the castle with the grabbed princess in the rain, and she throws the ocarina, and it's raining, and it's very emotional. It's a very powerful scene. But that's one moment in a video game versus an entire game where narrative plot lines is included into the narrative. So, Brave Fencer Musashi, great on this. A second reason why Brave Fencer Musashi is a better game is that gameplay-wise, for those who have played Brave Fencer Musashi, you'll admit that gameplay is a lot more intuitive, more fun, and a lot more active. Quote, the active RPG battle system. As I went into some detail in my Why Majora's Mask Matters video, and why waiting is not a fun mechanic, and how Ocarina of Time had a lot of that, but Brave Fencer Musashi, being a live-action game, meaning all of your actions happen in real time, and your attacks happen in real time, your abilities happen in real time, everything is more reaction-based. It allows the player more freedom and creativity with their action. For almost the entirety of the game, you are able to move freely in a not only 360-degree running around location, but with jumps included, made this completely three-dimensional. This movement allows enemies to also be more creative with their placement and abilities as well, and the environment's allowed to flow more, unlike Link's previous and Ocarina of Time environments. Remember when jumping was restricted to just holding a button and letting the game do the game work for you? Not very intuitive. This allows enemies to be more active. And more intuitive with their gameplay mechanics and battles. Unlike Ocarina of Time, where battles took place in arena-shaped rooms or very boxish shaped rooms with not much scenery or environment to play around with or experiment with, where everything was relatively locked to ground level and you could only really look around in first-person view. Brave Fencer Musashi. This game does not have a lock-on mode, and I honestly argue it doesn't even need it. With most of its range abilities, once you can aim freely, it reflects this does require more skill on the player, but with one of the first abilities, you get a handle on how aiming and these types of abilities work with a gun mechanic that allows you to not only shoot stuff at distance, which looks hilarious, but it allows you to fully understand that, okay, I need to aim and actually work on my accuracy and get good at a game versus holding a button to ensure that my arrows will hit a target. Because of this non-locked-on blocking nature gameplay, it allows not only basic enemies to move around in a 3D space freely, way more intuitive gameplay mechanics that can be just explored using the game's basic engine, and this can't be expressed more than when you make it into the second dungeon, where it is a full maze of labyrinth where you are utilizing nearly every mechanic that's given to you, such as double jumping, the lock-on block feature, the absorb enemy ability feature, to do platforming, do puzzle gimmicks, defeat bad guys. There's even a bowling minigame that's infused into this dungeon for fun. This all happens with the fusion mechanic, where you can steal the abilities of enemies using Bensho points. It's the game's version of magic, and this is where the game really shines in its creativity and fun. As an example of the fusion mechanic, there are these brambles early in the game that are blocking your path, and you physically cannot jump over them as you will take damage, and it forces you to reset your position. Well, there's an enemy that you see that jumps around very highly, and if you are able to land an attack on it to steal its ability, you then gain the ability itself to jump over those brambles and proceed through the game. This is great, as it's also used later for solving puzzles. This game forces you to use its own mechanics in a freeform setting to not only see what's good and bad, but also to see what the player can do with it in this semi-open world. Because of this open gameplay style, it also makes bosses way more interactive as well. Like in most games, bosses have a health bar, and the goal is to whack the shining weak spot 3 to 5 times, like your traditional Zelda boss. But unlike the Zelda bosses, you have to work to make them show their weaknesses. Each boss has a preset phase where you dodge attacks, work on weakening them down, and work on chipping their HP down to get them to show their core. Once their core is revealed, you have the ability to land a powerful, devastating high damage attack to where then the boss gets angry and starts getting more and more difficult to defeat. For example, the Skull Guardian, the second boss of the game, only shows his head weakness when you bonk him on the head using a rock gimmick from allies you've freed earlier in the game. One of the gimmicks the boss will actually do is to prohibit itself from getting attacked is by actually trying to stop your support team from enabling it to take damage. This is not only a fun, creative mechanic to allow the boss to execute more freedom in its attacks and styles, as you're not just locking onto one spot and waiting for it to do something, but it forces you, the player, to make a decision. Do I focus on dodging its attacks, or do I focus more on it not hurting my allies, or how do I use my abilities in time so I don't take damage and die? All of these are awesome, and something the Ocarina of Time doesn't do very well. Or the Ant Queen boss, where you have to strike her with your wind ability while she's attacking you with claws and bugs and poison just to get her exposed. Phrasing. Most Zelda bosses at the time were block, wait for the right timing, slash 5 to 8 times, rinse repeat. Not as much fun. In addition to these main story beats, there's also the Thirst Quencher Empire, the main protagonist of the game, which plays like a Saturday morning cartoon villainy style of bad guys where all of them have their gimmicks and are all really ridiculous, but all have very interesting and funny points in the game. Like the first person, he ends up getting himself killed trying to race Musashi up a cliff.
Hey, Root Trick, you left your cape at the bottom.
Shucks, I forget it.
You're gonna go get it, right?
I'll get you!
Outside of the main dungeon bosses, you also have the Thirst Quencher Empire villains that are there to disrupt your plans. They're very similar to Jesse and James and Meowth from Team Rocket, but with their better, I would say in my opinion, better plots. These bosses play a role later in the game as villains you need to defeat as to beat the game and save the day, and they're much more difficult to conquer than your normal main story bosses because they really do utilize not only different gameplay mechanics, but they don't have the standard, oh, well, I'm the water temple boss, so I need to be beaten by the water thing. No, they're normal enemies that are very difficult that you have to develop strategies to defeat them using the tools and abilities you currently have, really forcing you to think on your feet. These bosses play a role later in the game, but oh boy are they hard. You have Ben, the big, strong, powerful warrior of Leader's Force, Ed, the brains of the operation that shoots lasers, and then Topo, the dancer, who literally battles you playing DDR. Where is this in any Zelda game? Yes, you might have your side villain here and there, but they don't exist. This is a missed opportunity. Why doesn't Ganon have generals or overseers for his armies?
Oh no! My legs! That was my final rave. Farewell, dearest Capricola.
Some other factors that play a role in why Brave Fencer Musashi is a better experience is its music. In the background of this video is the Brave Fencer Musashi playlist from the game. It's 2 hours long, but I'm going to play a clip from this moment. It's almost 2 hours in, and you can't deny that this song is amazing. You hear this song near the end of the game, and it's when you're versus the final castle and its onslaught of bad guys and villains. This song gets you excited and pumped because you know you're on your last stretch of this gauntlet of a dungeon, of an enemy area, of a location that seems to go on but this music keeps you engaged and wanting to complete it, because not only is it difficult, where you probably will run out of resources, but it's so rewarding when you get to the end. So we have better gameplay that's not restricted to waiting. We have a better story that's also infused to a history lesson, which also much more sillier sides with its enemies, but also better bosses and better gameplay. Am I missing something? Like, is Ocarina of Time still a better game? Both games do have something in common, and that is the end fight. Both games end with a large lizard monster battle trying to destroy the world. For example, Ganon, Dark Ganon from the Dark Ganon form with the two swords, and the lizard form in the fusion of the Dark Wizard to destroy both worlds. However, as part of the story in Brave Fencer Musashi, they added an additional phase where you don't fight a giant lizard, but you fight something that looks almost like Frieza from Dragon Ball, where it forces you to use all of your magical, unique abilities acquired to overcome this challenge, kind of like a Mega Man elemental gauntlet, and forces you to use all the magic skills acquired in one mega boss battle to end the game. This fight is epic, as you truly utilize the abilities from the beginning of the game to the end of the game, and it's one of the best fights, not only with some of the strongest music. Square Enix at this time is at its finest with this boss development, expressing how you, the player, have overcome these challenges and using literally every skill you've learned and acquired through this game. In Legend of Zelda, you use the Gorgon Hammer and the sword and light arrows. That's it. Nothing else. But you have like 80,000 things. This climax feels like a true final battle. You and your raw skills acquired from playing this game are pushing you to hit that good ending. Overall, Brave Fencer Musashi is a PlayStation 1 masterpiece that was overshadowed by Nintendo hype, and is undervalued by something that definitely could have been much more of a World War name. But I guess this is the power of AAA gaming. But that's my opinion. What's yours? This game has so much heart and soul, unlike Ocarina of Time, they were pushed out the same year. Ocarina of Time just feels it's like bland toast, just a very bland style of adventure gameplay, while Brave Fencer Musashi is a piece of art. That's why Brave Fencer Musashi matters. Now go play this game. I do have a question though. If this game were to be remade, would it have the same value? Would it be appreciated as much? Do you agree with me on this, or do you think I'm nuts? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Ciao.
Shoot! Why do I have to do this? What the heck? I'll get Lumina, and then I'm out of here.